is Riley Harper. I work the night shift at a dive bar on the side of Highway 94 near Bismarck, North Dakota. The place is called Red Lantern Tavern, a classic roadside joint with dim lighting, an old jukebox, and worn-out wooden tables. Most nights, it's filled with regulars, passing truckers, or the occasional lost tourist. By midnight, the bar usually empties out, and I'm left alone to close up. This story takes place on one of those nights, and trust me, from the very first moment, it'll keep you hooked. It was a Thursday night around 1:30 a.m. The bar was completely empty. The jukebox was playing an old Johnny Cash song, though the sound was scratchy. Outside, the wind howled, making the neon open sign flicker by the window. I was wiping down the counter when the door creaked open. I looked up and saw a man walk in. He seemed to be in his late 40s with short cropped hair and a neatly trimmed beard. He wore a dark gray jacket over a black shirt. Nothing like the trucker types who usually passed through. He looked more like a businessman who had escaped the city. He walked in slowly, scanning the room, and sat at the far end of the bar. "Hey there," I greeted him with my standard bartender smile. "What'll it be?" His eyes drifted to the liquor shelf before he spoke. "Bourbon. Neat." His voice was calm, but there was a weight to it. "Sure," I said, grabbing one of the better bottles and pouring him a glass. As I set it in front of him, he asked, "You live around here?" "Yeah, been here for a while," I replied. "You?" "Just passing through," he said, though his eyes avoided mine. He took a sip of his bourbon and added, "This town, it's quiet, isn't it?" "Usually," I said, shrugging as I continued wiping down the counter. There was something off about him, too controlled. Most customers were either chatty or lost in their drinks, but he wasn't either. He just sat there, watching me. After a while, he asked, "What time do you close?" "At 2 a.m., I said, glancing at the clock. "Half an hour left." "Good," he murmured with a nod. But he made no move to leave. He pulled a pack of cigarettes from his pocket but didn't light one, just rolled it between his fingers. That's when I heard it, the low rumble of an engine outside. I glanced out the window and saw a pickup truck parked near the back entrance. Its headlights were off, and no one got out. A strange unease crept over me, but I kept my face neutral. "Waiting for a friend?" I asked, keeping my tone casual. The man smiled, but his eyes didn't. "Maybe," he said, finishing his drink. "I'll have another." As I poured him a second glass, my eyes flicked toward the door. The truck was still there. That's when I noticed his phone on the bar. The screen lit up for a brief second, showing a message. "Are you ready?" My pulse quickened, but I forced myself to stay calm. "Is it hard to find work around here?" he asked suddenly. "Hey, kind of," I replied. Not sure where he was going with this. "Why do you ask?" "Just curious," he said. "A young person getting stuck in a place like this would be a shame." "I'm fine," I said, my voice a little sharper now. "Of course," he murmured, tossing a $50 bill on the counter. "Keep the change." At that moment, I heard it. A faint creak from the back door. The bar's rear entrance was usually locked, but that sound, someone was trying to get in. The man's expression didn't change, but his eyes flicked toward the door. "I guess it's closing time," he said, standing up slowly. I slipped my phone out of my pocket and sent a quick text to my boss, Joe. "Emergency." "Come now," the man noticed. "Who are you texting?" he asked, his voice suddenly sharp. "No one," I lied, trying to put my phone away. "Don't lie to me, Riley," he said. He knew my name. I had never told him. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Doesn't matter," he said, reaching into his jacket. Then he pulled out a knife. "Open the door and step outside." Quietly, that's when I heard the sound again, this time a heavy thud against the back door. Someone was trying harder to get in. I lunged under the bar and grabbed the emergency whistle Joe had left there for situations like this. I blew it as hard as I could. The sharp, piercing noise filled the bar. The man cursed and lunged at me, but before he could reach me, the front door burst open. Joe stormed in, wielding a baseball bat. "Police are on their way, Riley." "Run!" Joe yelled. The man hesitated for just a second, Then he dropped the knife and bolted toward the back. I heard the pickup truck's engine roar to life as he jumped in. It sped off into the night. The police arrived minutes later. We reviewed the security footage, and while we got a clear shot of the man's face, we couldn't make out the other person in the truck. The license plate? Stolen. Later, I found out that a gang had been targeting young night shift workers in small towns nearby. His questions, the way he watched me, the truck outside, it was all part of a setup. If Joe hadn't shown up that night, I don't know what would have happened. I don't work alone anymore. But even now, I can't shake the memory of that man's cold smile. My name is Dylan Carter. I work the night shift at a gas station just outside Columbus, Ohio. It's a small place, scratched-up counter, dusty shelves, and the kind of silence that lingers too long. At night, I usually get a few truckers stopping by, but that's about it. It was past 2 a.m., snow was falling, and the road outside was empty. I was sitting behind the counter staring at my phone while my coffee went cold when the door chime rang. I looked up. A man walked in. He wore a long coat, his hat casting a shadow over his face, hands buried deep in his pockets. "Are you closed?" he asked, his voice calm but hollow. "No, we're open," I said, standing up. "Need gas?" He nodded. "Yeah, pump 2, he said, as he approached the counter. Reaching into his pocket, he pulled out a crumpled $20 bill and placed it on the counter. "Keep the change," he muttered, his eyes shifting around the store. "Thanks," I said, taking the money. But something felt off. His hands were shaking. I couldn't tell if it was from the cold or something else. He stepped outside and walked to the pump. I watched through the window. An old truck was parked there, its headlights off. The man grabbed the nozzle but didn't start pumping. "What the hell is he doing?" I mumbled. But I brushed it off. People acted strange sometimes. I went back to my phone, but 5 minutes passed and he was still out there. I looked again. The truck was still there, but the man was gone. I pushed open the door. "Hey, you need help?" I called out. Nothing, just the wind and the snow. I stepped forward, heading toward the pump. The hose was lying on the ground, leaking gas. "What the hell?" I muttered, scanning the lot. That's when I saw it. A shadow, crouched by the truck, doing something. "Hey, what are you—" Before I could finish, the figure stood up and disappeared into the darkness. My pulse spiked. I turned and bolted back inside, locking the door behind me. What the hell is this guy doing? I thought as I grabbed my phone. 911. No signal. Damn snow, I muttered, pacing toward the register. Then a sound, tap, tap, tap. I turned. The man was standing at the window, face still hidden in shadow. "Open the door," he said, his voice cold and clear. "We're closed," I lied, my heart pounding. "Open it," he repeated, knocking again. This time, I saw it. A knife in his hand. The blade scraped against the glass with a slow, grating sound. "Stay calm, man. What do you want?" I asked, stepping back. "I need to come inside," he said, dragging the knife along the glass. "I'll call the cops," I warned, bluffing. My phone was useless. He grinned, yellow teeth flashing in the dim light. His eyes gleamed in the dark. "Go ahead," he said. Then he slammed his fist against the glass. A crack splintered across it, but it didn't break. "Hey, stop!" I shouted, reaching under the counter for the emergency alarm. Old, but still functional. I pulled the cord, and a sharp, piercing noise filled the station. The man flinched. "What did you do?" he barked, stabbing the glass with his knife. This time, it shattered, glass spraying across the floor. He stepped inside, his boots tracking snow onto the tiles. "Don't," I warned, gripping my coffee mug, my only weapon. "Give it to me," he demanded. "Give you what?" I asked, confused. "The tape," he snapped, his eyes darting to the register. "What tape?" I had no idea what he was talking about. He stepped closer, waving the knife. "You know." Then, a loud bang from the back door. He froze. "Who's there?" he asked, his voice unsteady. I don't know, I admitted. I was supposed to be alone. I ran to the back, yanking the door open. A truck was parked outside, its headlights glowing in the snow, but no one was in the driver's seat. What the hell? I muttered, peering into the storm. Footprints led away from the station, not toward it. I turned back. The man was rummaging through the register, his knife stabbed into the counter. "Find it," he yelled. "Find what?" I demanded. I grabbed my phone. Finally, a signal. I punched in 911. "There's a man here. He's armed," I gasped. "We're sending units now," the dispatcher said. The man turned toward me, something in his hand, a small box. "This?" I asked dumbly. It wasn't a tape. It was a cigarette pack. "Are you kidding me?" I started, but he ripped it open. A key fell out. "What's going on?" I demanded. He didn't answer. He grabbed the key, clutched his knife, and bolted for the door. Jumping into the truck, he fired up the engine and sped off into the storm. By the time the cops arrived, the station was a mess. Shattered glass, a torn-up counter, a few dollars missing. I told them about the truck, but there were no plates. The tracks were already buried in snow. They never found him. But under the register, they did find something. An old security tape from the station's camera system. We watched it. It showed the parking lot. But not at night. It was daytime, and there, clear as day, was the same man, the same coat, the same hat, loading something into the truck. Then, he turned to the cashier and handed them something. I stared in shock, because the cashier was me. But I wasn't working that day. I didn't even remember being there. The police took the tape, but the key, no one knew what it unlocked. I still work here, but now, every night I double-check the locks, and every time I watch that tape, I feel it. The man is looking straight at me. My name is Ethan. I work the night shift as a pizza delivery driver in a small town just outside Portland, Oregon. It's a quiet place. During the day, it gets busy, but after midnight, orders slow down, leaving only a few late-night deliveries. But that night, that final order, it was a delivery I should have never made. I don't remember the exact time, but it was past 2 a.m. Just as I was getting ready to end my shift, a last-minute order popped up on the system. One pizza, but the address was strange. 3175 Black Ridge Road. That was deep in the woods. We never deliver there. There are only a few abandoned houses in that area. "We don't take orders out there, do we?" I asked. Greg, the guy at the counter, shrugged. "The new guy must have taken it by mistake," he said. "But it's prepaid, no cash, just drop it off and leave. How bad could it be?" I grabbed the box, started my car, and headed out. As soon as I turned onto Black Ridge Road, the atmosphere changed. Fog rolled in out of nowhere. I switched on my high beams, but I could barely see ahead. The trees seemed to close in from both sides. The road got narrower and narrower. When my GPS said 800 meters to destination, something appeared ahead. A car, an old rusted model, its headlights off, but it didn't look abandoned. It felt like someone was inside. As I slowly passed it, I leaned over to look through the window. But the inside was pitch black. I couldn't see anyone. I stepped on the gas. When I finally reached the house, every instinct screamed at me, "Turn around and leave." But I didn't. The thing that unsettled me the most was the door. Not slightly open, fully open, no lights inside. "Hello?" I called out. Silence. I checked the address again. Yep, this was the place. For a second, I thought about just leaving the pizza at the door, but the order note said, "Do not leave at the door, hand deliver." I wasn't going inside, no way. I was just going to knock. I knocked, waited. Nothing. Just as I turned to leave, I heard something. A whisper. So faint it could have been the wind, but it was definitely a voice. As my eyes adjusted to the dark, I saw it. Something in the hallway, a phone, an old flip phone lying on the floor. The screen was on, flickering. I stepped closer. The message inbox was open. The last sent message read, "He didn't listen to the warning." At that moment, the floorboards upstairs creaked. I froze. Someone was up there. And then, a voice called out to me, "Did you bring the delivery?" For a second, I couldn't breathe. The voice didn't sound human. It was slow, echoing, but crystal clear. Then it spoke again. "Did you bring the delivery?" And this time, it was right above me. Someone was standing at the top of the stairs, looking down. But I couldn't see their face. I took a step back toward the door. "Who's there?" I shouted. No response. The figure took a step forward. The floor creaked again, another step, then it started laughing. But it wasn't laughter, it sounded broken, like a distorted recording of laughter. One more step, and its shadow stretched down the stairs. I wasn't going to wait. I dropped the pizza and ran. I sprinted to my car, slammed the door shut, turned the key, nothing. Tried again, nothing. Third try. That's when I looked in the mirror, and I saw him, sitting in the back seat. A lump formed in my throat. For a full second, I couldn't move. Then, with trembling hands, I threw the door open and jumped out. I hit the ground, scraping my knees, but I didn't care. I got up and ran, into the woods. Dark, foggy, freezing woods. And behind me, the sound of an engine starting, my car. The headlights beamed into the trees. And then the engine roared toward me. Then, a loud crash, and everything went silent. At sunrise, the police found my car parked outside 3175 Black Ridge Road, but I wasn't there. The engine was still running, but inside was no one. The police searched the house. It was abandoned. For years, they went upstairs, but no one was there. The only thing they found was a pizza box left in the hallway, and on top of it, "He didn't listen to the warning."